Let me ask you something from the heart. Have you ever been called too strong by people who benefited from your silence? Have you ever been praised for your patience, while they tested it again and again? Have you ever smiled in public while fighting a storm inside? If yes, then this message is not a coincidence. It is a reminder your soul asked for, because being a strong woman is beautiful, but being a wise, strong woman is powerful. Have you ever noticed how the strongest women are often the quietest sufferers? They smile, they manage, they carry responsibilities on their shoulders, and the world calls them inspiring. But deep inside, there is a tired heart that rarely gets permission to rest. Strength becomes their identity so early in life that even when they are breaking, they feel guilty for slowing down. And that is where the first truth waits silently. Just because you can handle everything alone does not mean you were born to suffer alone. A strong woman learns to adjust before she learns to demand. She learns to forgive before she learns to protect. She learns to understand everyone else before she learns to understand herself. People admire her patience, but slowly they also begin to take advantage of it. And one day she realizes that some people did not love her strength. They loved her silence. Another truth is this: your heart will be tested by people who will never pass the test of loyalty. You will give second chances to those who never deserved the first. You will explain your pain to people who never tried to understand it, and yet you will still hope they change. But hope without boundaries is not kindness, it is self-neglect. There will also come a time when you discover that not every smile around you is real. Some people will celebrate you in public and compete with you in private. They will clap for you, but secretly feel threatened by your growth. And in that moment you will learn another lesson: you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your journey does not require their approval. One of the hardest realizations for a strong woman is this: you cannot heal in the same place that broke you. You cannot grow in a space that constantly doubts your worth. You cannot bloom where you are repeatedly disrespected, and yet you will stay longer than you should, not because you are weak, but because your heart is loyal. Still, one day, even loyalty learns self-respect. Then comes the most painful shift of all outgrowing people. You will change, your thinking will change, your limits will change, and those who once felt comfortable with your silence will now feel uncomfortable with your confidence. They will say you became different. They will say you became selfish. But growth always looks like arrogance to those who benefited from your self-doubt. And let me whisper this truth gently: your softness is not your weakness. Your emotions are not your enemy. Your need for rest is not laziness. You don't have to prove your strength by hurting quietly anymore. You don't have to earn love by sacrificing your peace. Real strength is not about how much you can tolerate. Real strength is about how much you respect yourself. It is about walking away without hatred. It is about choosing peace without guilt. It is about loving deeply without losing yourself. Because the world does not need another exhausted strong woman who survives everything. The world needs a strong woman who heals. A woman who smiles not to hide her pain, but because she is finally at peace with herself. And when that happens, her silence no longer comes from fear, it comes from power. A strong woman often grows up hearing one sentence again and again: you can handle it. And slowly, she begins to believe that she must always handle everything. She becomes the one who fixes problems, absorbs pressure, controls emotions, and keeps moving forward no matter how heavy life becomes. The world starts to admire her strength, but rarely does anyone stop to ask if she is tired. And the truth is, many strong women are not tired of life, they are tired of being strong all the time. One quiet truth she learns along the way is that people love her most when she is useful to them. When she listens without judging, when she gives without keeping count, when she sacrifices without complaining. But the day she decides to choose herself, the same people call her difficult, And that is when she understands that not everyone who benefited from her kindness truly valued her heart. There is also a moment in her life when she realizes that love should not feel like constant effort. That respect should not need repeated reminders. That loyalty should not be proven through pain. Yet she stays longer than she should, not because she is weak, but because she believes in people deeply. Still, every heart has a limit, and when that limit is reached, the silence becomes different. It is no longer helpless, it is firm. A strong woman also learns that not every battle requires her energy. Earlier, she tried to explain herself to everyone. She tried to justify her choices. She tried to prove her intentions. But with maturity comes a peaceful understanding. Not everyone needs an explanation. Some people only understand distance. And then comes a time when she outgrows spaces, relationships, and even versions of herself. The old version that tolerated disrespect. The old version that stayed quiet to keep peace. The old version that carried guilt for saying no. And when she steps into her new self, the world feels unfamiliar. Some people drift away. Some misunderstand her silence. Some feel uncomfortable with her boundaries. But growth is rarely comfortable, it is honest. One of the deepest lessons she learns is this: being emotional does not mean being weak. Feeling deeply is not a flaw. Caring too much is only painful when given to the wrong hands. She realizes that her sensitivity is actually her strength, but it must be protected, not offered to everyone. And slowly, her idea of strength changes. Earlier, strength meant enduring everything without breaking. Now, strength means walking away from what breaks her. Earlier, strength meant staying silent to avoid conflict. Now, strength means speaking the truth calmly, without fear. Earlier, strength meant standing alone in pain. Now, strength means asking for support without shame. And one day, without realizing when, she becomes lighter, not because her life has no problems, but because she no longer carries what is not hers to carry. She chooses peace over pressure, self-respect over approval, healing over proving. The world once admired her for surviving everything. Now it will admire her for finally living. And this time, her strength will not come from how much she endured. It will come from how deeply she learned to value herself. A strong woman often believes that her value lies in how much she can endure. She learns to stay quiet when things hurt, to remain composed when emotions rise, and to keep giving even when her heart feels empty. The world praises her patience, her maturity, her strength. But somewhere along the way, she forgets that strength was never meant to be a burden she carries alone. It was meant to be the light that helps her walk forward, not the weight that exhausts her soul. There comes a day in her life when she realizes that being available to everyone has made her invisible to herself. She has listened to everyone's problems, but kept her own locked inside. She has shown up for others even when she was falling apart. And slowly, silently, she starts feeling distant from her own happiness. This is where a quiet truth begins to rise. You cannot pour from an empty heart and expect to remain full. Another truth waits patiently for her understanding. Not every relationship is meant to be permanent. Some people come to teach lessons, not to stay forever, and a strong woman often holds on longer than she should, hoping that love will change people. But love does not change those who are comfortable in your sacrifice. It only teaches you how much you are willing to lose in the name of connection. She also learns that respect is not something you beg for. It is something you attract by how you treat yourself. The more she lowers her standards to keep peace, the more restless her heart becomes. And one day, she finally understands that peace built on silence is fragile. Real peace feels steady, not suffocating. There is a moment when she stops explaining herself. Earlier, she wanted to be understood by everyone. Now she understands that those who truly care will never need long explanations, and those who misunderstand her on purpose will never be satisfied no matter how clearly she speaks. Silence becomes her boundary, not her weakness. A strong woman also begins to unlearn the habit of self-blame. She no longer carries guilt for choosing her mental peace. She no longer apologizes for growing. She no longer feels responsible for everyone's reactions. She realizes that it is not her job to carry the emotional weight of the entire world. One of the softest yet strongest changes in her life is this: she becomes kind without being careless. She becomes loving without being losing. She becomes gentle without allowing herself to be taken for granted. Her heart stays open, but her boundaries become clear, and slowly she learns that healing does not always look dramatic. Sometimes healing is simply choosing yourself quietly. It is waking up with less anxiety. It is feeling lighter without knowing exactly why. It is smiling without forcing it. It is trusting yourself again. She no longer measures her strength by how much she can tolerate. She measures it by how deeply she honors her own well-being. She understands that it is okay to outgrow people, places, and versions of herself. Growth does not ask for permission. It only asks for courage. And when she finally stands rooted in her self-worth, something beautiful happens. She no longer needs to prove her strength to the world. Her calm becomes her power, her peace becomes her success, and her journey stops being about survival and begins to feel like living. A strong woman slowly becomes the pillar for everyone around her. People lean on her during their storms because she looks unshaken. They share their worries because she listens without interrupting. They depend on her because she rarely says no, and over time she becomes so busy holding others together that she forgets how to rest within herself. The world calls her dependable, but deep inside, she carries a quiet tiredness that no one talks about. She often mistakes endurance for strength. She thinks that staying silent means being mature. She believes that tolerating pain means being patient. And little by little, she trains her heart to shrink its own needs so others can feel comfortable. But the heart was never designed to live small. It was designed to feel fully and live freely. One day, she begins to sense that something is off. She gives, yet feels empty. She tries harder, yet feels unseen. She forgives again and again, yet the same wounds return. And slowly, a truth rises within her: not everyone who stays in your life deserves the same access to your heart. There is a quiet moment in her journey when she realizes that being understanding does not mean being endlessly available. Being kind does not mean being taken for granted, and being loving does not mean losing yourself. This realization does not make her cold, it makes her clear. She also learns that disappointment does not always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people we trusted the most, from expectations we held too tightly, from hopes we built too early, and when those expectations break, it hurts deeply, not because of what happened, but because of what we believed would never happen. A strong woman learns to sit with that disappointment without becoming bitter. She allows herself to feel the pain without allowing it to harden her heart. She understands that becoming guarded is easy, but becoming balanced is wisdom. There comes a time when she stops chasing validation. Earlier, she wanted to be appreciated for everything she did. Now, she finds peace in knowing what she did was right, even if no one applauds it. She no longer measures her worth by how much she is needed. She measures it by how deeply she is at peace. She also learns that not every door needs to be forced open. Some doors close because they have served their purpose, and holding on to them only delays your next chapter. Letting go does not always require anger. Sometimes it only requires acceptance. Slowly, her idea of strength transforms. Strength is no longer about carrying everything. Strength becomes knowing what to put down. Strength becomes choosing silence over argument, peace over proving, rest over rushing. And one day, almost without noticing, she becomes different, lighter, calmer, more grounded. She still cares deeply, but now she also cares for herself. She still loves fully, but now she also protects her energy. Her life may still have challenges. Her days may still carry responsibilities. But her heart no longer feels like a battlefield. It feels like a home. And that is when her strength stops being loud and starts becoming steady. Not the kind that shouts to be seen, but the kind that quietly changes everything around it. A strong woman often grows into strength without ever choosing it. Life simply demands it from her. She learns to be responsible before she learns to be carefree. She learns to stay composed before she learns to be expressive. And over time, she becomes someone the world depends on. People admire her stability, but rarely do they notice the quiet pressure it takes to stay that steady. She becomes the one who holds emotions inside so others can feel comfortable. She becomes the one who adjusts so situations don't fall apart. And after doing this for years, she almost forgets that her heart also needs space to breathe. Strength becomes so natural to her that she forgets how heavy it is to carry it alone. There comes a moment in her life when she realizes that she has been available to everyone except herself. Her time belongs to others. Her energy flows outward. Her understanding is endless. Yet, when she finally feels tired, there is no one who knows how to hold her the way she has held everyone else. And in that moment, she understands a quiet truth: giving endlessly without receiving is not generosity. It is slow self-erasure. She also learns that love should not feel like walking on glass. That care should not feel like constant struggle. That respect should not feel conditional. Yet she stays longer than she should in places that hurt her, not because she enjoys pain, but because she believes in effort, in loyalty, in patience. Still, even the most loyal heart reaches a point where it chooses peace over persistence. Another lesson finds her slowly. Not every explanation will be understood, and not every silence will be respected. Earlier, she tried to justify her choices to everyone. She tried to make people see her intentions. She tried to soften every misunderstanding. Now, she learns that clarity with oneself is more important than approval from others. There is a gentle strength that grows in her when she stops carrying the burden of everyone's expectations. She no longer feels responsible for how others feel about her growth. She no longer shrinks to make others comfortable. She learns that discomfort in others is often the price of self-respect. A strong woman also unlearns the habit of blaming herself for everything that breaks. She understands that some endings are not failures, they are corrections. Some goodbyes are not losses, they are protection. And some delays are not punishment, they are preparation. Her heart remains kind, but it becomes wiser. She still forgives, but she also remembers. She still loves deeply, but she chooses more carefully. She still hopes, but she no longer sacrifices her peace for uncertainty. And slowly, a beautiful change takes place. She stops measuring her strength by how much she can endure. She starts measuring it by how gently she can live. She no longer needs chaos to feel powerful. She finds power in calm. She no longer needs to prove her resilience through suffering. She proves it through balance. Her life does not suddenly become perfect. Problems still come. Responsibilities still remain, but something inside her shifts. She is no longer fighting to survive. She is learning how to live with awareness. And this is the quiet victory of a strong woman, not that she endured everything, but that she finally chose herself without fear, without guilt, and without needing permission. Let me leave you with this. The world does not need another tired, strong woman. The world needs a healed, strong woman. A woman who chooses herself without guilt. A woman who walks away without explanation. A woman who knows her worth without shouting. A woman who is calm, not because life is easy, but because she is no longer fighting herself. And that is the real power.